Here on Wham Baam Dashcam, we've shown you over 1,000 dashcam videos sent in by our fans, and we serve up 20 new ones every week. Today we're showcasing some of the craziest clips we've ever featured, so buckle up for Wham Baam Dashcam's Worst Drivers of Illinois, Volume 1. Hammy is a trucker who was on his way to his final stop in downtown Chicago after a week-long trip. As the traffic in the lane to his right began to slow down, the driver of a black Nissan Altima made a very expensive miscalculation. The Altima driver tried to cut in front of Hammy's truck, but they misjudged the gap and collided with the front corner, damaging his deer guard, bumper, and fog light. Meanwhile, the Altima lost control and collided with a Ford Fusion, which Hammy thinks will most likely result in those two vehicles being totaled. All involved drivers pulled over, and state police arrived less than a minute later. The cops had everyone continue to the next exit. Once there, the Altima driver immediately began blaming Hammy for the collision. In the chaos, he didn't know who was at fault, as the whole incident had happened so quickly. Thankfully, his dashcam footage allowed the police to conclude their investigation instantly. The Altima driver was proven responsible, and Hammy was cleared of any wrongdoing. Thankfully, nobody had been injured. Sadly, but perhaps not surprisingly, the Altima driver was uninsured. Fixing Hammy's truck will cost $5,000 US, which his employer is paying for. But if you thought that was the end of the story, you're wrong. 2 days later, the Altima driver called Hammy's boss and threatened her with a lawsuit. She laughed at him and wished him good luck before guaranteeing him he wouldn't make a penny off her. Hammy told us he's grateful for his dashcam, knowing his spotless driving record would have been done for if not for the footage proving his innocence. The stories of drivers caught in their lies are just starting, so buckle up. John is a snowplow operator who was working during a winter storm one afternoon. The driver of a Mercury Grand Marquis was driving too fast and spun across the center line and into the path of a pickup truck. The pickup truck hit the Grand Marquis, sending it spinning back across the road. Another vehicle then hit the pickup when the driver was unable to avoid a collision. Finally, a Honda driver, eager to avoid a Honda bump, went up onto the curb rather than rear-end the other vehicle. John stopped and shared his dashcam video with the involved drivers and responding police. Police told John the Grand Marquis driver was confused and didn't even know what direction he'd been going. Firefighters apparently had a hard time extracting him from the vehicle. This next video is crazy and involves an SUV ramming April's SUV before driving off, but the story doesn't end there. She was headed home after a family pool party at her father's house when she noticed a Yukon straying from its lane. When April's light turned green, she floored the accelerator to create some distance, but it wouldn't last for long. The Yukon eventually rear-ended April's Hyundai Santa Fe. At the time, she was going 58 miles per hour, and she estimates the Yukon was going around 70 miles per hour. It then passed her in the oncoming lane over double yellow lines and took off. April called 911 and gave the operator the make, model, and license plate number from the SUV. She managed to pull up next to the driver and told him to pull over, but he just took off again.
I have you on camera! You hit me! You need to pull over!
While the 911 operator dispatched police to her location, she followed the Yukon into a gas station where she thought maybe the driver had had a change of heart and was finally stopping. Instead, he repeatedly asked her to get out of her vehicle, which she refused, before examining the damage and giving us this beautifully clear shot of his face. The guy then told April he was going to the hospital for reasons unclear before fleeing the scene yet again. She waited for police to arrive and turned everything over to them. Her clear video evidence allowed them to charge him with fleeing the scene of a collision. She told us she's grateful to her dad Jeff for teaching her good driving habits like paying attention to what's behind as well as what's ahead. Bobby was on his way to work and was stopped at a red light. Watch what happened when his light turned green and he proceeded through the intersection. Out of nowhere, a van blew through the red light right in front of Bobby's Chevy Malibu. He slammed on the brakes and laid on the horn, and he told us the van did appear to slow down after going through the intersection. He thanked us for inspiring him to get a dash cam, noting that there are people in his area who aren't paying attention when they drive. Jake was driving his Mitsubishi 3000 GT when he noticed the front wheel of another car starting to wobble. When the traffic light turned green, he must have sensed what was about to happen because he let the other car get ahead of him. Sure enough, the wheel decided to go it alone, leaving the car to grind to a halt. It was obvious that nobody was harmed, so Jake continued driving. Logan was driving late one night when a black Camaro went flying past him, followed closely by a police car in pursuit. Logan estimates the Camaro was moving at around 50 miles per hour. Just a couple of minutes later, Logan came across a collision scene where the Camaro had slammed into the back of a Jeep belonging to one of Logan's friends. Logan stopped to make sure his friend was okay. Thankfully, his friend was able to walk away after, according to the police, the Camaro rear-ended his Jeep at 85 miles per hour. The police report states the Camaro reached speeds of over 100 miles per hour and the driver was intoxicated. Sadly, the Jeep is probably totaled. Logan and his friend are both just thankful he's okay. Ryan had parked his Nissan Sentra in a restaurant parking lot and was enjoying some Mexican food when another driver backed into his car. After the collision, the other driver stopped to examine the damage to his own vehicle, but then he just left. He made no attempt to find the owner of the car he'd hit. Little did he know, Ryan's car had a dash cam, and its parking mode had captured his vehicle, his license plate number, and even his face. When Ryan discovered the damage, he went straight to the cops with his footage. The police easily found the driver using the plate number before paying him a visit at home. After finding the SUV in question parked in the driveway, check out the conversation the officer had with the guy.
I'll be right up front with you. The car you bumped into had a camera.
The other driver ended up being cited for the collision, and it also turned out he wasn't insured. Ryan's insurance provider is now pursuing the guy to pay for the $1,700 US repair bill after they replaced his front bumper cover. Hammy was waiting at a traffic light, and when he got the green arrow for a protected left turn, he started making his way through the intersection until he noticed an oncoming SUV wasn't slowing down. Needless to say, Hammy's week could have easily been ruined if he hadn't been paying attention after the Ford Escape driver cruised through her red light without even trying to slow down. Sam was headed to the airport to pick up a relative when the driver of a box truck decided to pass him on the right by driving up and over the sidewalk. Then, as he forced his way in front of Sam, he hit Sam's side view mirror. The box truck drove off while Sam stopped to check for damage. He was able to fold it back into place, and he chose not to report the incident since nothing was damaged. Trevor sent us this week's Tesla behaving badly.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
The driver of a black Model Y used a left turn lane to pass traffic during morning rush hour, but Trevor told us he ended up passing her on the highway 5 minutes later in spite of her creative maneuver. Peyton told us the drivers in Normal, Illinois are anything but normal. As she was driving along in her Kia Forte, the driver of a Ford SUV proceeded from a stop sign and Peyton came within inches of hitting it. Peyton told us she and her boyfriend watch every Wham Bam upload and thanked us for our quality narration. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to subscribe so you too can watch every new episode. Our next submitter needs your help. Jake was coming to a stop for a traffic light when the driver of the Chevy Impala behind him rear-ended his Volvo S60, shoving it into the Kia Forte ahead of him. When Jake and the Kia driver pulled into a parking lot, the Impala driver took off, making this a hit and run. Since the Chevy didn't have a front license plate on it, they weren't able to provide it to the police. Jake made an insurance claim with his own provider, but without the identity of the offending driver, he'll have to pay his deductible to get his Volvo fixed. That's where you come in. If you have any idea who was driving that Impala, send us a message and we'll forward the information along. This submitter was approaching a green light when it turned yellow. He decided to continue through it, which is completely legal in the state of Illinois, even if the light turns red after entering the intersection. We checked. An oncoming driver in the left turn lane failed to yield to our submitter before colliding with his Toyota Sienna. Both drivers pulled over and exchanged information before continuing. James was headed onto a highway in Chicago when he encountered an SUV driver with main character syndrome. Yep, that SUV driver cut across an entry ramp to reach an exit ramp, completely illegally and without checking to see if there was any traffic coming. Thankfully, James was paying attention and at least he knows that his brakes work. Here's a question. What happens when 3 black SUVs try to occupy the same space at the same time? Anantesh was behind 2 black SUVs when a third pulled out onto the road, giving one of the others no chance to avoid hitting it. The other driver barely avoided also hitting it as it spun around, hopping the curb instead. The first SUV went off the road on the left before stopping, while the driver who'd caused this whole situation ended up blocking a lane. Thankfully, Anantesh told us that nobody appeared to be injured. Julian was turning into a parking lot when he suddenly encountered an oncoming SUV that was going the wrong way in Julian's lane. When Julian honked, the oblivious driver veered to their right, nearly sideswiping a passing pickup truck. Thankfully, no collisions occurred. Our friend Hammy is back with another one. Thankfully, this time it was only a close call when a work truck pulled onto the road in front of his Acura TL while he was going 45 miles per hour.
Man, what the was that? You! I got that on camera!
Hammy told us our channel inspired him to install his dashcam 6 months ago, and now he'll never drive any vehicle without a dashcam ever again. If you enjoy our videos, double check and make sure you're subscribed. Danny was on his way to class when he watched the driver of a black SUV T-bone a white Corolla after running her own red arrow. Danny followed the black Toyota RAV4 into a gas station parking lot and made sure she was okay. They then checked on the Corolla driver, who had already called the police. When police responded, Danny gave them a copy of his dashcam footage. He then gave the Corolla driver a ride to school as he was a student at the same college Danny had been on his way to. Danny told us this was the first collision he's captured after owning a dashcam for a couple of years. Greg was in a Dunkin' drive-thru when he watched a Honda SUV pull out of the parking lot and get T-boned by a Nissan SUV whose driver had no chance to react. Greg pulled into a parking lot and checked on the drivers. Thankfully, neither of them were seriously injured, but police told Greg he may be asked to testify in court as a witness to the collision. Thankfully, he never was. Even so, he said that viewers should buy a dashcam. Not only does it protect you, but it could help other people significantly. Julio was on his way to work when someone leaving their driveway almost backed directly in front of Julio's Mercedes CLK. Julio swerved into the oncoming lane while braking and honking the horn. Thankfully, his maneuver prevented a collision and he was able to continue on his way to work. Rob was on his way back from breakfast with his wife when he encountered a Tesla behaving badly.
That Tesla man can't drive.
The Model S driver ran a stop sign, nearly colliding with Rob's Hyundai Ioniq 5. Thankfully, he was able to slam on his brakes and avoid a collision before they both went their separate ways. Rob told us he was excited to finally have a video to send to Wham Baam Dashcam. He told us he and his wife Becky also watch Wham Baam Tesla Cam and Wham Baam Security Cam every weekend. Ace and Top were heading home from the airport when they were sideswiped by a reckless Volvo driver, but they quickly found out why they were driving so erratically. The Volvo was being pursued by an unmarked law enforcement vehicle, a Ford Interceptor SUV. The Volvo driver didn't stop after the collision, making this a hit and run, and they continued to hit other vehicles as well. Ace and Top stopped and exchanged contact information with the other victims in case the police could identify the driver, but they later found out the license plate had been stolen. They told us they love all our videos, and they were excited to have one to send to us. I guess there's a silver lining after all. Thanks, you two. Robert was headed to get a smoothie when he watched one driver nearly sideswipe another as they entered a turn lane early. Thankfully, Robert's honk was enough to alert the other driver and a collision was avoided. Raza was driving down a wet highway when he watched a van ahead of him lose control. Raza told us the van driver had been tailgating traffic and had to slam on the brakes when they slowed down, leading to the van spinning out and colliding with a vehicle 2 lanes over. This emitter spotted a speeding driver who seems a little too relaxed to be driving on the highway. Our submitter told us the other driver had his leg hanging out of the window while holding his phone and speeding down the highway. I wonder if he knew he was driving.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.